this latest episode of Inspired Coach Podcast. We have an inspirational interview today for you that I really hope is going to be especially helpful for any of you that might be either worried or wondering, one of those two W's, about all the things that you may have done in your life, experienced in your life, be experiencing in your life, and whether those things are possibly even relevant or helpful to you becoming a coach, or may even be a detraction from it, potentially because you're thinking that you've not approached life or your previous career and lived experience in a very linear or traditional way. If that sounds a little bit like you, then my wonderful guest today, Arissan Nicole, is going to be able to help you so much. So let me tell you a little bit about Arissan and then dive more into this topic with you. So Arissan is a career and mindset coach who helps women to navigate the job search process from the inside out. Now, Arissan herself has a history of multiple career pivots, and she's traversed industries without necessarily knowing what she wanted or a supportive network to guide her. And she also knows what it's like to feel and be burnt out, overworked, underpaid, and under-resourced. And sadly, I think that that's something that many of us can relate to. If not directly, then in some form or another in our lives as well. And so Arissan is now an incredible career coach, and she uses her expertise and knowledge to help women navigate the career switch and pivot process in a fun and empowering manner. And Arissan approached us here at Inspired Coach Podcast and said, I would really love to come on and talk about a non-linear approach to coaching, embracing your path, your own personal individual path to coaching, and understanding that that is something that may look very, very different to what you might be seeing on social media and what may be presented to you as this one path or one formula to success. Well, for those of you that know me in any way, you'll know that my ears really pricked up when I heard something like that, because I'm all about making sure that people know there is no one way to coaching success, no one way to starting, to keeping going, to experiencing that success, whatever it may mean to you. And so Arissan is here to talk to us not only about her own non-linear path to coaching, which is an incredible story, but knowing so many other things as a coach, including that you are never locked into anything. You can change your mind about the direction you want your coaching or business to take at any time, and Arissan has done that as well. And why, if you are someone that has had many jobs, many career pivots, you've led a very diverse, interesting, rich life that has not necessarily taken one particular or even two particular paths, that is in fact an asset to your coaching business, rather than any message that you might have received from anywhere else, that it is in fact not that at all. Arissan Nicole, welcome to Inspired Coach Podcast. I am absolutely delighted to have you on as our guest today.
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you.
Arissan, I am really excited to have this conversation with you today, because I already know, I have a feeling in my bones and my waters, that's how much I know, that this is going to be a topic in this inspirational interview that is going to be extraordinarily helpful, and even a life and career and business pivot moment for some people. We're here to talk about embracing your unique and potentially non-linear path to coaching. And I know that you have had your own journey with that. Why is this particular topic of helping people embrace the non-linear aspects of life, career, and business so important to you?
Ooh, wonderful question to start out. I would say for me, it's because I feel like a lot of what we see is linear is standard. And what I have found is non-linear is actually more common and it's not talked about as much. And so for me, the more we talk about the non-linear paths to wherever you are getting to or wherever you're going, then it normalizes that the twists and turns is human and life and all that goodness. And actually the twists and turns make for even richer experience as a coach for your clients. And to embrace that is so important because so often it can feel like you shouldn't embrace it because it needs to look a certain way or else you're going to be viewed a certain way. And so that is kind of my driver to like embrace the nonlinear, because we all have nonlinear stories. Even if it's not career, it might be family, it might be other aspects of our life.
You are so right about that. You know, that is the absolute truth, is that while one area of our life might have taken a fairly straight path, there could be many other aspects of our being that are very much not that, and with lots of twists and turns and heartaches and muck-ups and mess-ups and failures, if you want to say that, and learnings and all of the things. Why is it, do you think, that even though this is such a common thing in life, and all of us, or nearly all of us, can we say all of us? I think we almost can say all of us, have experienced it, that you see in your coaching and work, why do we find it sometimes hard to embrace and hard to say, yes, this is a part of my journey?
I think two answers. I think it's very common for us to look at the other and the outside and see kind of the top level of people's lives and judge them based on that. And social media these days makes it a lot easier. And I also believe that there's a part of the companies and you know, living in a capitalistic society that to make people feel bad about their past so that they can sell something, that they're selling this is the way that you do it. This is the way that's supposed to be done. You know, especially when you look at like a white dominated male society, that's the norm, we've been told. And then if you're a woman or you're a woman of color and you go through that, you've been told this is the norm, and then you realize the system and these places weren't created for you. And so I think it's also, there has been a lack of diversity of opinions and views publicly. And so then that can feel like, oh, this is the way to do it. If you don't do it this way, you're wrong or you're bad.
Without question, because there are many different intersecting factors that are involved with oppressive systems such as capitalism and white supremacy. And one of the major ones, which is actually so big, it's almost not spoken about as much, is that everything should be achieved in a direct linear path. And you go from here to here and you just pull yourself up by the bootstraps and you make it happen. And that's the way that you go. And anything that deviates essentially from what is considered to be the norm or acceptable is either not viewed in a positive way or not even acknowledged. And so it's no wonder that all of us in varying different ways, but especially people who are dealing and living with marginalized identities and intersecting oppressive influences, are finding that embracing of non-linear living and non-linear being in life easy, because it's just not, is it?
No, it's not. And it's even harder when you try to live a linear life and you're wanting a non-linear path.
Yeah. So, Arissan, let's dive into this then a little bit more from a personal perspective, because you obviously have deep lived experience with this. So tell us about your non-linear path to coaching. I'm such an embracer of non-linear everything that I don't even know whether there is a linear path to coaching, but I'm sure that probably all of our oppressively influenced thinking has us think one in some way. It's like we get a degree, have some great life experiences, do a course, and then we've got a 6-figure business in like 6 months.
Yeah.
That sort of right. I see you laughing. That sort of linear path of it's like, well, yeah, I don't know anybody really that's done that, but there's a lot out there trying to sell it.
Yes. There's a lot out there that's trying to sell it, which that maybe is for later.
I was going to say, yeah. So that's a whole other. Oh, let's start with you. So let's talk about your part. That's a whole other conversation, but I think I want to hear your thoughts on that, actually. It's like, let's go there later.
So for me, for coaching, first off, I've always been the type of person that I don't like being in one place for very long. So I've moved a lot, especially after high school. I went to 4 different colleges. I needed to be somewhere new and different. And I was really searching for belonging and having that feeling, and that I know was rooted, well, I didn't know then, I know now, that was rooted in my struggle with my racial identity and how I identified and didn't identify, feeling not white enough and not brown enough to call myself Latina. So like really floating in this other box. So that really, I think, is the background of how I grew up. And as I started, like I got my degree in international East Asian studies and studied Chinese, and then went to Taiwan and lived in Taiwan and was doing an intensive Chinese language after college. And then I went to an international trade and was working for an organization where I was putting on these big programs and events. And so you hear that and you're like, how did you get to coaching? I was in that, and I loved the travel. I loved these things. And I knew that I needed work that was more mission driven. And so that was kind of like the drive to start getting me closer to coaching. There was always been this pull, and there was probably a tickle about coaching. I didn't know what it was that it was coaching back then. And so I then switched into pediatric healthcare, and then I moved into I started in like employee engagement, and then by the end of it, I was doing consulting and with staff and patients and family relations and staff support and employee engagement. And so I was working on that side of things. And also in 2017 with a friend, I started a self-defense business. So I've done also Taekwondo for over 30 years, and I coached it. I've trained, I've traveled the world with it. And I was just really feeling that there was a miss in having self-defense that was accessible. Like you didn't need to take years and years of martial arts to learn how to defend yourself, and wanting it to be taught by 2 women too. Because I also felt like there was a lot of self-defense that was taught by like these big husky men that are like, do this, do that. And so I started Seattle Self-Defense with a friend, and that was kind of my first taste of entrepreneurship, really. And it was definitely very realizing how much time and energy needed to go into building a business. I had no idea then, but I was still working full time, and the pandemic hit. And I know that the pandemic has been a wake up reckoning for a lot of folks. And it was for me, especially because before the pandemic, I was at burnout in my corporate job. I was just exhausted and tired. My body was breaking down. I was having like back-to-back surgeries on my, like literally I had like shoulder surgery and then I had knee surgery within like 7 months of each other. And pandemic hit, and I was working in healthcare, and there was also a social justice reckoning at the time I would say that things are changing now, but at the time it was a very big social justice reckoning with the murders of George Floyd and Breonna Taylor in the United States. And everyone was at home, so everyone was paying attention. And the messages that folks got in the States, and I don't know how much it was impacting folks in other parts of the world, but in the States it was really big, especially in the Seattle area where I was, that you got the message that do not talk to your Black employees, do not talk to your Black friends, do not burden them with trying to understand what is going on right now. And that meant I had a lot of people coming to me asking me to explain what was going on. And I think that was the first time that I knew that people didn't see me as white. I can be very white passing, but I never felt like I could own or claim that part of me. And then this thing happened where it was very clear that, hey, you're not white, but you're not Black. So I can talk to you. And then I was just all of a sudden, June was one of the hardest months, and I was just working and I was getting this emotion. I was going through a racial identity reckoning. And so I broke. And then in a way that was beautiful, in that how I could rebuild, I asked myself, what do I want to do? Like, what is it that I want to do with my life? Because I'm unhappy in every area of my life. And I realized with self-defense, my favorite part of self-defense was the moment when people got how much power they already have in them. So it's like, yes, hitting, it's great. But then there's always this switch in class, within even a 2-hour class, where women all of a sudden maybe come in quiet and are afraid to, and then they just switch and are like, wow, look how strong I am. And I was like, that piece right there, I want to do that piece. I love self-defense. And so then I just started doing research and started talking to folks that were coaches, and I found Beautiful You Coaching Academy. I found serendipitously a coach, I didn't mean to, that had trained with you all, and it just felt meant to be. And then that led me to starting my coaching journey and deciding that I wanted to go all in on myself and starting my own business.
Thank you so much for sharing all of that with us. And what an extraordinary journey you have been on, from Taiwan to pediatric health to a racial awakening with your own identity, social justice, self-defense, and so much more. And I really hope for anybody that is listening right now that is thinking to themselves, I'm scattered, I can't commit to one thing, I don't think that I could do this, that you're listening to Arissan and learning that the path and the way to being a successful coach and really going for something like this does not have to look a certain way. Arissan, would I maybe be right in saying that either yourself has internally felt at some point in time, or even others have criticized you along that path in a way that's kind of intimated to you, can you pick something and stick to it, sort of thing? Like, because I know that there have been some people, they have explained, I've never had that for myself, but I have had other people say, okay, feels like it's my 57th try at something, when in fact it's only number 3, which feels perfectly normal to me. But can you tell us a little bit about, have you had any experiences like that?
Every single time I go to make a change. And so I've learned who I share big changes with, not because I am afraid to share, but I have, like, for example, the first time in my first career job, my boyfriend that I was dating at the time really gave me a lot of a hard time because I didn't know the direction I wanted to go in, because I didn't even know the next move, because he knew he wanted to be a doctor. So he had his whole path lined out for him. So it didn't make sense to him that I didn't know what I wanted to do, and I was looking to make a career pivot. So that was my first career pivot. And then I had like friends when I was going to make that pivot too, being like, why would you leave? You're getting paid well. You get to travel the world. You get to do all these things. So there's also this idea of like, why would you leave something that's good for what, that you don't even know? And I've also been told by people you need to make money. Like, don't worry about doing things you love until just make some money first, and then you can worry about doing things you love after you make some money when you get older. And so every single time I've made that change, even into coaching and the whole process, because it was when I decided I wanted to do coaching, it was almost a year and a half before I left my job. Like, I did a lot of setup for that, and I still had folks tell me, how are you going to do this? Are you sure that all the things? And I've just had to learn, one, who to share it with, and two, to make sure I felt really solid with it. And anytime I felt wavering because of what someone else said, to pause and give myself space to like feel the wobble, but then kind of be like, no, this is what feels right for me. Because what I've also learned is you can always change your mind. You can always change again. I'm like, I can always go back into the corporate world if I'm feeling it. Like, if I want to, I can always go here or go there. And so I think so often people are so scared of change that they think if you make this change, then it's over. Or if you make a mistake, then everything's going to fall apart. And it's like, actually, you're just going to go to what's even closer to what you want.
Absolutely. And that mindset as well, that you're locked into something forever. Mm-hmm. And forever now, even in comparison to our parents, grandparents, great-grandparents, is a lot longer than what it used to. People are working longer, they are living longer, they are running their businesses for longer. And I think it is a very unrealistic thing for anybody to think that what you are doing right now is going to be exactly the same as what you are going to be doing in 5 years or 15 years or 20 years. I mean, who would have thought that even just a few short years ago, and we're still experiencing the impacts of it, we would have all gone through a global pandemic. I mean, nobody knew that anything like that was ever going to happen, and we don't know what's coming in the future. It's once again that non-linear aspect of life that we like to think is maybe not real or not there, but is in fact very there at all times. Arissan, I'd love to ask you, with embracing our non-linear lives and our path to coaching, if we're going to embrace something, there's got to be a reason that we do it. And I think that your reasoning in some way is that there is benefit in us doing this, that anybody that is looking or deciding to become a coach and has a non-linear life, a non-traditional life, has done many, many things in many ways and maybe still doesn't know what their exact path forward is. Am I right in saying that you consider it a real strength to embrace this aspect of ourselves?
Absolutely. Because the more you embrace that side of yourself or lean into it, the closer you're going to get to know yourself. Because when you fight it, resentment builds, judgment builds, shame builds. And when that's building within you, it's really hard to make changes that feel good, because then there's all these questionings. And so the more you can embrace like the curve or the turn, then it allows you to be solid. For me, what I've really discovered is I'm really solid in who I am. So the curves don't define me. I am who I am. I've gone through a lot of work of like feeling really good about that, finding belonging within myself. But because of that, these changes and these pivots have nothing to do with me. I mean, yes, I'm the coaching business, but I think also we attach our identities to these changes and to these pivots. And that can be really, I don't want to say harmful, but it can be, because what you're doing is you're attaching you to this thing outside of you. Whereas if you are kind of solid in who you are, these changes are just like a fun ride that you get to go explore. And it's like going on a road trip and getting to stop at all these cool places, but you're still in the car because you're still good.
Yeah, absolutely. I love the way that you've put that. Do you also think that all of the life experiences that you've had and others with non-linear paths have had into their coaching is actually something that you can use as a coach. You know, you have lived overseas, you've worked in healthcare, you've owned another business before owning your coaching business. You've taken many different paths, many different directions. How do you use that as a coach in supporting your clients? Because I consider all of that to be a strength.
Yeah.
Many strengths.
I think it's twofold, because it's a strength because it helps your coaching just in general, having all these different experiences, like how you show up and hold space. And I think on the outward appearance of how clients are drawn to you. Now, I've really actually had to learn how to embrace this more as I've become a coach, because I started out coaching as a belonging and empowerment coach for women of color, and now I'm a career coach. And so even right there within my own coaching, I've made some would say a drastic pivot. And almost everything that I was coaching on and working with folks on around belonging and empowerment is still things I'm working on with career. And there was still, and it peaks, will peek through how I was thinking a way that a career coach was supposed to look like coming into career coaching. Because in my mind, I never worked at, the Fortune 500 companies. I never worked in big tech. I lived in Seattle. I never worked for Amazon or Microsoft or Google or any of these things. And so in my mind, I was like, people are going to look and see that I don't have the air quoting qualifications here. And then they're going to judge me and think that I'm not good enough, right? That good enough comes up. And what I realized, the more I talked with folks, it was my non-traditional path in my own career and my own personal life experiences that was the reason why they wanted to work with me, because they were going through the same thing and they never wanted to work in tech either because something didn't sit right. But they've also been feeling that kind of shame and guilt that I had. So I really learned that speaking about my story more is actually such a huge way to draw in clients and connect with people. And I think for a lot of it, I felt that I had to have my business and me behind my business and talk about the marketing things, but not talk about my story. And the more that I talked about my story or shared experiences I had, the more people I had coming into my orbit. So one, it helps you just become a better coach because you have all these different experiences to draw from. And then two, you don't even realize someone needs to know that they're not alone in their journey. And someone who they're seeking help from or support from has been in a similar situation is so powerful. And I know that you know that because we've talked about niching, but I think knowing that and then feeling that and then being in your business and marketing that, completely different things.
Oh, yes. They certainly are. And you do it beautifully, Arissan, the way that you share aspects of your unique self in service. And I think that that's the through line here for people who end up being very client attracting coaches because of who they are personally and their life stories and experiences, is that they've found a way to be able to share and express those things in value to others. It's not just, this is me, look at me. Mm-hmm. It's, this is me. This is who I am, and yes, look at me, but through your eyes and through what it is that you need, and I'm trying to be a mirror for you if I can. And I think that you do that in a really beautiful, powerful, extraordinary way. And I, for one, am grateful that there are career coaches out there like you, because I think that so many people in life now, more so than ever, especially post-pandemic, are actually either already very much at their forefront or it's stirring somewhere deep inside them, genuinely thinking about changing their careers, not in a small way, Like a little pivot or a little shift into another department or another area in the same industry, but actually thinking, no, I'm a doctor and I want to start a bakery. Or I am a baker and I want to be a life coach. Or I am a lawyer and I want to start a jewelry business. Are you feeling this and seeing this too?
1,000,000,000%. So much so. And I love being a career coach and I love sitting in the seat, and some folks too, when I start working with them, they don't know. They have the tickle, but they don't know that it's actually such a big drastic change. And when they come to this realization, for me, I'm like, it's like such a deep breath moment for them, because it's definitely something huge. And I think that that's where my focus is with career coaching, is like an inward out approach, because we know how important it is to know ourselves in order to make that outward change, and helping people just understand too that they have transferable skills. I think that is really what's fascinating to me, and is seeing how many people don't feel like they have any skills or gifts, and they don't think that they can change. And in my mind, I'm like, you have so many skills and gifts because of all the different paths that you've taken, and here are all the different ways that they relate. So it's almost helping people connect the dots, because folks don't realize, if they're looking at that becoming a coach, like, you don't realize that organization and that place you worked, or that really niche thing you felt like you did, you're like, how would this apply? It applies so much, and you might not know it right now, and you might not know it, until like 2-3 years in your coaching business, but there'll be a moment where it'll come up and you're like, there that is. Me working on a farm was really helpful in this exact way.
Yeah, absolutely. And you know what? I love that expression, connecting the dots, because I think that that's one of the things that really great coaches can help their clients find within themselves. Sometimes they don't even know what the dots are, or they know that they're there, they just don't know how to connect them. And Arissan, thank you so much for being with us today to talk about this. I said at the top of the interview that I had a feeling that this was going to be a topic that was just going to be so helpful for anybody that might be holding themselves back from leaping into a coaching career because they think, I can't stick to something, or I've done too many things, surely this can't be something else. Well, we love those people. We love you. Yes. For all of your different non-linear jobs, roles, pivots, things that have worked out, not worked out, things that you don't even think could be relevant to you as a coach. I hope that Arissan has helped you to understand that they are. We are so proud to have you as an alumni of this academy. Thank you so much for being with us today and all of the brilliant work that you are doing as a coach.
Thank you so much for having me. This has been wonderful.
Thank you. Everyone, if you would like to learn more about Arissan and her incredible work, please go to the podcast section of our website. And if you truly are one of those people out there thinking to yourself, I couldn't do this, or I couldn't make that next change because I just can't take myself seriously, or this isn't looking the way that other people are telling me that it should look, or you're feeling any guilt or shame or doubt about the different paths that you've taken, just know that there are just as many people out there that believe in your ability to take that next step because of all of those things, rather than in spite of them.